Guys, quick review here. I did forget to turn on my camera today, so I have no footage. But and I already did my review. I posted it there on the DRC, but I still wanted to go over a few points um, about my thoughts about this move. So first of all, we did a pretty good pre-market prep. Um, uh, Luca, you were a little bit late to it, but even I think we were all clear on the levels. But when Lot and I were going over it, I think it was pretty clear. We had pretty strong conviction, at least I had, that this um, was pretty much going to test here the again this value area here, which is 25 300s, is a VPOC, but then you know it, this area between the 200 and 340 350 it's pretty obvious because um, it had like come up here into the top of the range, had taken out the top of the previous of the whole range of the previous 7 days, and it was trapping with some structure there on the top. It was pretty obvious that it was just gonna go, and because we were so on a relative basis, if you look at the whole thing, like we're pretty close. It was just boom, right there to test it. So it was pretty obvious, and I think we were clear on that. And I was actually feeling like before the open, like wow, rarely do we get such a strong sense of like a clean setup of direction, and that's why I was so confident on that opening drive, because I would never take an opening drive. I only take them when I feel like everything is set up in a way that it's like it's just like free money, and that's why I committed to that one. So let's get that clear, because again, it is important in this in this thing that I'm going to say, and it's like if we do our pre-market prep and we have such strong conviction, and it's not always like this, right? We can define levels, and then we come with scenarios, and we're like, okay, maybe it's going to do, we're going to fade off of this level, that level. If it goes here or go there. But I don't remember the last time that we had such strong conviction on direction, that this thing was just going to, that was just so likely to do something. Because, well, the technicals say it, right? So when that happens, um, um, I believe that we need to have more conviction and lean on our bias a little bit more. Lean on, if we have a thesis that's very, very likely to play out, and we see it in real time, sort of like, we have a conviction that this thing is going to open strong, and it does open strong, and then we know, and we talked about this, like once we hit the 200, we knew that it was going to probably make it up here. So we kind of have to give a little bit more weight and trust a little bit more our our skills, right? Our ability to not prediction skills, but of constructing a powerful thesis, you know, and that then gives us conviction to to maybe find a way of navigate, because okay, the market was trading in a way that to me it was like foreign. I couldn't make sense of it, because I'm actually so zoomed in that it just didn't fit my style of trading. But um, but then if we're flexible and we go out and we go to the 1 minute, and we have that bigger picture thesis and you know in our head, then that probably makes it easier to just, at least I'm speaking for myself, to just let go a little bit, not be such a control freak, not try to, maybe it's not trading the way I wanted to trade, but hey, it's basically doing, on technically on the chart, it's sticking to the plan. So that's the first observation. It's kind of like um, have a little bit more, put a little bit more weight on a thesis, where the thesis is it looks like it's a good thesis. The other thing I wanted to point out, I put this on the trades with edge, is that I was so tilted that I can't even remember how. Maybe it wasn't as easy as it looks here, but there was a range here. After we reached the 200 level, this range here for a while, between 931 at least and 933, or almost 934, so almost like 3 minutes, where it did give us, and I do remember saying this at some point during the call, like, hey, if it, fade off of the low 200s, and it did at least once come down to like 208, I think it was here, and then after that, bam, and it pops up into the 240s, and that is, that's at least one scalp plus another maybe one or two scalps with shorter range that we could have tried there. Like, this is a range that could have been traded, and not only that could have been traded, but that could have been, we could have taken this range as an opportunity to, if we were thinking in terms of that bigger picture thesis, even before, just, sort of like put on a core and trade around the core off of the low 200s. That was an opportunity to get that started. Then obviously, if you switch to the 1 minute and you see the 9 EMA or 10 EMA or whatever you're using, I switched it to an 8 EMA for some reason. I'll switch it to a 9 EMA. I didn't want to use a 9 EMA because it's not a lucky number for me. So, but we could have entered here if we're scalping the range, or at the first pop here when it tests the 250s and it pulls back into the EMA. That's an entry. Even when it breaks the 250s, pulls back into the 9 EMA again, it's another entry. Any wick or pull back into the EMA could have been an entry here. So that would have just gotten us in the trade. Regarding what Luca did, I'm sorry, I have to be, because I'm always the asshole here, and I have to be an asshole, but I stand by what I said, because I was looking at the market from the lens of the lower time frame momentum scalping style that we've been trading, and under that lens, I'm not sure where he got in. I think it was somewhere around here. It was already testing the 300s, which was a potential target area. When something, look at the geometry of the move. Like here, it's literally going parabolic, right? It's a parabola, right? It's doing like this, and then it starts steepening. And Luca tells me during the call, it's because it was steepening. No, so exactly when it's steepening is when you are supposed to leave it alone. You cannot touch it. You're supposed to be getting in on the base when it's starting to, but when it's already when it's already like, almost 90 degrees, from the low time frame perspective, if this was real exhaustion, and you were saying, and you were saying, Luca, like, oh, but it wasn't price capitulation. What do you mean it wasn't price capitulation? When it gets steep, that's exactly what it means. And maybe not not so much volume, but certainly price capitulation, man. When it gets steep, it means that it goes from 70 to fucking 300. That's 30 points in a matter of nothing. That is price capitulation. What was missing here was a strong volume capitulation. I give you that, but it's not. It is. I stand by what I was saying. This was not something that was literally the definition of chasing, and in this case, it works. It worked because this happened to be a mechanical move that didn't have a real volume exhaustion along the way, and well, and it was this, right? So but on a day that things are not trading this way, on a day that it's trading more normal and the price action and the tape is more adjusted to our style, if you go on chasing a move like that on days when there's real momentum, because this is not momentum, at least in our time frame, you can get smoked. So I stand by that. I'm sorry, I have to stand by that. You can't get smoked, because the way we trade is that when we get one of these like parabolic moves, typically bam, it exhausts, and then it puts on a red candle. It puts you back down here. We've seen it happen so many times. I don't know, if I start looking at charts on the previous 1, 2, 3 days, I'm sure I'll find one or two of these instances when something goes parabolic. It can exhaust here and then drop down. So chasing up here within the framework that we've been using, I still think that's not okay. The reason it was okay today is because this was not a day that's a low time frame momentum day like we're used to, where things are explosive and they exhaust and then they pull back, and then it's like there were no explosive moves today. This was just a mechanical squeeze, and Lott described that perfectly, because that's what it was. It was a mechanical squeeze, boom, until we got into that new value area. So in that framework, from that perspective, if we switch over to a different mindset, different framework, and now we're using an indicator to keep us in, and we're just relegating control. It's not about trading this thing actively anymore. It's just about trusting that we have a thesis and making sure that this thing, we're trailing it with an EMA, then that works. But still, I think you may have been chasing it when it was pretty extended from the EMA. Even within this framework, if we switch over to this framework, which is what we should have done, entering here is still a big no, because you're entering here at 98, and this thing can pull back all the way down into the EMA in the mid 70s. So even in this framework, you should only be entering here on a pullback into the EMA. That's the only thing that works. Up here, it was already extended from the EMA. Look at how far we were from it. This is an area where you cannot be joining trend. You got away with it because it ended up squeezing higher, but it could have ended badly. So I'm sorry. No, but I just do stand by that. Now, this again, the structural change that I believe that I am ready to do with my trading, and that we as a team can also pay more attention to this stuff, is this. It's just being more aware of the higher time frame, and that we don't get lost in the noise, we're too zoomed in. We have to pay attention to context. Even when things are trading our way, always have the 1 minute to see when we can be using that EMA. Now I'm gonna fucking start using the EMA like crazy. Being able to switch every time we get, so we've been talking about when during our normal trading how things work our way. We're scalping a range, and then when it gets out of the range, then we switch over to momentum. Those momentum moves, it may not be this, may not be 100 points, but typically, or 150, but typically they do have range, either whether it's 30 or whatever, and typically, and we can go back, and I was doing this a little bit earlier, all the previous days that we've been trading, every time we have that little, break of trend or whatever, or break of a range, and then we get that extended move. If we had been paying attention to the EMA would have helped us a ton in capturing that move more efficiently. So I think this is a good idea to just pay more attention to the 1 minute chart and then the EMA. But then, yeah, on days like today, I think the main thing, when Lot said that this thing was like speaking a different language, and I think that was a really great analogy. Um, this is a note for me because I know this is my issue. Is one of the reasons why I trade a short time frame and why I scalp like that is because I have to be in control all the time. I have to be in control because I'm very averse to losing, not just the P&L losses, but just losing. I just need, that's my trade. That's the way I trade because of that. I'm a control freak. Um, but today the market required something else. And to navigate the market, it was like he said, it was speaking a different language or trading in like a parallel universe. And it's not about, I need to put aside my ego and be like, okay, then let go. Let go of control, let go of, and if this is what the market's asking from us, when this is what we're going with, and then trust a little bit more the technicals. I hate trading the technical charts because I don't know, something about it. I hate it. But well, no, sometimes okay. Just relegate control to these indicators. And I don't know. I think that's it. What I had to say. Um, Going forward, I think this is basically this moved like it moved into this value area again, which is the 300s, and I'm hoping now that we get some volatility, that we stay here in this range, and then we get some, what makes us, what makes us, what the trades that creates the opportunities that we've been trading. So hopefully we stay here within a range and we get that tight range in the open, and then we get the break below or break above the range, and we get real momentum. This was a pain in the ass because there was no momentum. It was just a mechanical move, and well, we need momentum. All right, I guess that's it.